I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York.
Siamo a Manhattan, a New York, più precisamente nel quartiere di Chelsea, e questo alle mie spalle è la House of Sound, un palazzo di proprietà McIntosh e Sonus Faber dove vengono esposti i migliori impianti audio che è possibile acquistare di questi due brand. Avete magari $1 milione da spendere e non avete voglia di venire in un negozio a Carpi sotto un palazzo, quindi venite qui dove ci sono degli impianti settati e con la possibilità di ascoltarli in un ambiente che può essere quello vostro domestico. Siamo alla House of Sound a New York.
Hi, I'm Ricky Miranda. I'm the audio experience manager at the House of Sound in New York City, and we are now in our cinema, which is fully powered by McIntosh and Sonus Faber. If we take a look over here at the tower of equipment itself, the center you'll find a McIntosh MX180 home theater processor. That's going out to a whole lot of amplifiers. You see 9 MC611s, which are doing all of our ear level speakers, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and then 10 MI502s, which are doing our subwoofers and our Atmos speakers. So we have 29 channels of amplification, around 21,000 watts of power at program, up around 85,000 watts of power at peak, which is pretty crazy. I think we would probably die if we went that loud, but we've got access to it. So then talking about the speakers specifically, we're using all Sonus Faber Arena series speakers in here, all 4 of the speakers in the line. Behind the screen here, we have 3 of the Arena 30s, which are very close to the Sonus Faber Amati, if anyone's familiar with that. So it's basically that same sound signature, but inside of a wall mount instead of a nice fancy wooden box. The main difference though is it has a dual tweeter, so you get a lot more articulation in the dialogue. So especially in big action scenes and stuff like that, all of the dialogue is extremely intelligible compared to a lot of theaters.
Ok, vi ho catapultato immediatamente nella visita, ma come funziona questo posto? House of Sound è una destinazione dove audio, arte e design si intersecano per creare un'esperienza immersiva. Pensate che dentro questo palazzo c'è addirittura una piscina che stavano finendo di allestire. Precedentemente situata a Soho e conosciuta come World of McIntosh, la House of Sound si trova a Chelsea, in uno dei quartieri più belli di New York. Pensata per raccogliere clienti, rivenditori e distributori, questo spazio viene utilizzato anche come strumento di marketing, per mostrare e mettere in mostra i meravigliosi prodotti che vendiamo, con l'organizzazione di eventi, cene, feste e quasi come in una serie TV, alla fine della nostra visita siamo anche stati invitati ad una di queste feste, ma magari mi chiedete poi i dettagli in privato quando venite nel negozio. Senza divagare troppo e tornando a quello che ci interessa, siamo arrivati, il manager ci ha accolto e ci ha fatto fare un primo giro del posto, partendo dalla terrazza, amplificata dai diffusori da esterno Sonus Faber, e scendendo in tutte le sale e diverse zone. L'ospitalità è il massimo livello, ci hanno cucinato il pranzo, che quasi mi sembrava di essere un VIP, per poi partire con Rick, audio experience manager del posto, con la vera e propria spiegazione tecnica di tutti gli impianti installati.
Here in the wall, we have 6 of the Arena 20s, which are equivalent to the Sonus Faber Serafino, which is a speaker that I have in my living room at home, so it's something I'm very familiar with, and a very, very beautiful speaker. It works really great with the Arena 30s. Up in the ceiling, 1 on each side of the projector and 1 on each side of the screen up here, we have 4 of the Arena 10s handling all of the Atmos duties in this room. You'll see there we also have a nice Sony GTZ 380 projector. And then the thing that really blows the most minds in here is the fact that we have 16 subwoofers. And people ask, why do we have 16 subwoofers? And it's because, firstly, because we can. And secondly, because it's the right way to do it. And we're doing it in a slightly different way than a lot of people do things. So we're taking the 4 tracks of low frequency that come shipped in the movies, we're dividing that into the 4 quadrants. Each one of them has 4 subwoofers, but then we're also, 12 of the subwoofers are getting program signal. So these 2 subwoofers are doing LFE and right front or left front. These 2 are doing LFE and center, those 2 there. And we also have 6 at the back of the room, so we have a subwoofer for each side, for each half of the rear, and each half of the ceiling. So when you have sound and something moves around, you don't hear it move around, you feel it move around. It's a completely immersive experience, which is very different than what a lot of people have experienced. The subwoofers themselves have a lot of capabilities that allow us to be able to do that. You couldn't really do that with large diameter subs, not in the way that we want to. It doesn't integrate properly. There are some pretty fast subs out there, but in general, you get up to a 15-inch subwoofer and it's kind of slow compared to the drivers and the LCRs. So these subwoofers, one, have a patented 3-chamber design, so it's a completely balanced sound signature inside of the subwoofer itself. And then they also, for drivers themselves, they have 4 6.5-inch drivers. So there's 2 here and 2 here. So they're moving as much usable air as the 15 would in this room without any of the phasing issues. So we're not losing bass that they're creating. Everything that they create is usable. And the other big thing, since we're using smaller drivers and we're using an even number of them, is each pair is horizontally opposed. So they move in and out together, canceling out any physical resonance in the speaker. So when these things are really, really going, you can come up here and put your hand on the subwoofer and you won't feel it there, but then you go down to the port and it'll push your hand away. And so when you're out in the theater itself and you feel something shaking through your body, it's energy from across the room. It's not that this thing is shaking the floor and that's shaking your seat. There's not a motor in your seat like when you go to the fancy movie theater. This is all sound, which is something very, very different people aren't typically used to. And people come into this room and they experience it and they watch a movie and they're, oh wow, I was on that ship in Master and Commander. I was in the desert in Dune. Like I'm actually in this F-18, right? In Top Gun, which in fact we had one of the F-18 pilots from Top Gun Maverick in this room and he thought it was pretty close to being in an actual F-18. Which is pretty wild. So yeah, it's a very immersive experience. It's a very different way of experiencing cinema, especially in a home environment. And yeah, it's really fun.
Come avrete capito, qui non si scherza e questa è la massima espressione di home cinema che Sonus, Faber e McIntosh possono offrire. Secondo me per un impianto del genere ci vuole più di €1 milione, ma siamo a New York City dove vengono venduti appartamenti da centinaia di milioni di euro e cosa fai? Non ti metti in casa una bella sala cinema? A parte le battute, off the camera ci hanno detto che sembra tutto facile, ma per raggiungere questi risultati hanno impiegato più di 1 anno di progettazione e dopo una breve demo non posso che crederci.
And now we're up in our 5th floor where we have the smaller of our 2 reference systems, which is kind of funny because this is quite a big reference system, but we do have the larger one downstairs in our ballroom. But this is our big full McIntosh reference system. So there's a couple things in here who have recently been discontinued. Some of them we have their replacement in the house. Some of them I'm waiting till customers get all of their pre-orders first before I get my toys here. But we start out here with a C2700. This has been replaced by the 2800. So that's the more modern version of that preamp. Really great piece of equipment. It's an all tube preamp. Has our best phono stages in it, our best DAC in it. Just a really wonderful machine. Right at the top of our stuff before it hits the reference level. Below that we have our MQ112. So this is our new outboard EQ. It's the first one we've done in a while and it's pretty cool. It's got 8 bands plus the tilt control, subwoofer specific outputs as well, which a lot of people have been looking for in a device like this. From there, if we go out to our sides, we have our 2 physical sources in the room. So our MCD 600, which you see we have a nice pile of CDs on top. We listen to a lot of physical media here as well, as much as possible. And then on this side, we have the MT5. I think loaded on there is the new McIntosh record. In fact, the Erskine Jazz record. It's a really great sounding record as well. They use some McIntosh equipment in the mastering and mixing of that as well. Down below that, we have the MEN220, which is our room correction device. It uses software from Lingdorf called Room Perfect. It's the same as the software that's in the MX180 in the theater, but just for 2-channel instead. So if you take a look around, this room is obviously physically compromised. You have no wall on that side. We have a lot of glass. But with the MEN220, it's able to make the speakers work as if they were getting all of the reflections that you would want them to do. It's changing the timing going to the specific frequencies. Not part of this system, but here in the cabinet anyway, we have an MI128, which powers our roof. We have some of the Sonus Faber Asters up there, and those are all powered by this machine here. Out to the side, this is another piece of discontinued equipment, but we do have the MC 2.1 kW downstairs. We still have this around partially because this is almost a half of a ton of amplification, so it's kind of hard to get it out of here. We've got it and it still does a really great job, and it's nice to show the evolution. And one of the things that I think is most impressive as someone who works on machines and loves these things myself, we built this thing for 13 years before we could physically make it better. It's a very long time to build a consumer electronics product. It's really at this level. The big changes between this and the new one though are, one, I think the new one looks a lot cooler. You can actually see the internal componentry from the front, and that stuff that you can see are those much larger capacitors. So over those 13 years, capacitors have almost halved in size. The new amplifier can store almost twice as much electricity inside of it, which for us in the room makes notes happen faster, they're able to stop faster, and you can also create lower notes than this one could, which is crazy, because as you guys experience, this thing can make the house shake, but with the new one, it can make it shake even more. And at the same time, being dead quiet. It's one of our quad balance amplifiers. So what this does is it creates 1,000 watts in phase and then 1,000 watts out of phase, and then the output module inverts and combines those. So that the end result is, as you experience now with 100% on the volume control and 2000 watts per side, the fact that we don't hear anything going on means that we're getting more of the music. So you very often hear people describe televisions as having the blackest blacks. McIntosh amplifiers have the quietest quiets. So if you can understand why blackest blacks is important, you can also understand why quietest quiets are important. So on both sides, because of things like power guard preventing the amp from clipping, and the fact that they're dead quiet, you're literally getting more of the record, right? When it gets loud, you're not distorting. When it gets quiet, you're hearing the little tiny stuff, right? Classical music especially, jazz, you have all of these little transients that a normal amplifier covers up with just machine sounds. Well, with the McIntosh, you're just hearing the record. And speaking of hearing, we go out to these. So these are the XRT 2.1s. These are an evolution, an at-home evolution of something that the Grateful Dead used to use with their wall of sound. So this is a line source as opposed to a line array. But what we get in the room, aside from lots and lots of power handling, we've got a 2000 watt amplifier hooked up to it, is a very, very even volume distribution no matter where you are in the room. Because the way that these drivers are arranged, they essentially cancel out sound between themselves, meaning that you're getting a flat plane of sound from each driver. So the closer you are to the speaker, the less of those drivers can actually interact with your ears. The further away you are, you can hear more of the individual speakers, but over that distance, the energy dissipates so that your relative volume everywhere in the room is about the same. So if you have a really big room, really deep, really high ceilings, and you want to entertain, there is not a better pair of speakers to cover that space than these. You can sit in this chair at the same volume that will blow you away in that seat, and you have the same experience, right? And because it's McIntosh and it doesn't distort and it creates sound very, very cleanly, you can listen at volumes that make you feel the music without hurting your ears, and that's what's really special about a system like this.
L'ascolto di questi diffusori, che in realtà abbiamo fatto qualche giorno prima nella visita alla fabbrica McIntosh, mi ha davvero lasciato con tanti interrogativi. A me succede poche volte, ascoltando tutti i giorni e tutto il giorno, che qualcosa riesca a rimanermi così tanto in testa, e credeteci o no, le ho anche sognate la stessa notte. Visto che, forse per ora, per la clientela del nostro negozio sono un po' fuori portata, appena tornati a casa abbiamo ordinato e tra virgolette ci siamo accontentati delle sorelle minori XR100 che hanno, ovviamente in piccolo, la stessa impronta sonora e devo dire che stanno riscuotendo un ottimo successo. Ma se qualcuno dovesse essere interessato anche ai modelli top di gamma Macintosh di questo video, sarei la persona più felice del mondo nell'andare ad installargliela. Ma House of Sound non è solo ed esclusivamente impianti da milioni di euro.
So now we're in the first of our small listening rooms. So we have two rooms that are about this size that kind of feature the average listening room size for folks in suburban America. It's about 10 feet by 10 feet wide, 9-foot ceilings. So this is the type of room where you come in, you have a couple chairs, maybe one chair if you live by yourself, and you just sit down and you have your glass of wine or your glass of scotch and really get into your music. This room focuses on Rotel, Project, and Sonus Faber. So we've got a couple things I can switch back and forth between here. Mainly what we do though is we use the RAS 5000 streamer and we bypass the amplifier section and we go into the Michi P5 preamp and then down into the Michi S5 power amp. And then that goes out to these, the Sonus Faber Sonetto 5 Generation 2. These are really, really new speakers. We'll get back to that in just one second. The other thing I want to point out here is the Diamond series from Rotel. So we have the DT6000 CD player and the RA6000 integrated amp. The last two components we have here, the RPM9 Carbon from Project and the PhonoStage RS from Project as well. So we have a really nice full-featured system, plus another full-featured system, and depending on what's going on with who's coming through the house, I have the ability to swap back and forth between stuff so we can show a wide variety of items in these smaller rooms. These speakers though are what we're really most excited about. These came out a couple months ago. And the thing for me as someone who is around this stuff all day, every day, it's really crazy that the Suprema, the $750,000 flagship speaker that was announced at CES, hasn't even made it to anyone's home yet, although there are some on the way, but we already have an entry-level speaker that has pieces of technology that come from the Suprema. So you look specifically at the voice module, and you see the interesting surround here is what they call the camellia driver, so it's kind of flower-shaped. And what they do is, these little cuts change the distortion that happens at the edge of the cone so that distortion doesn't hit your ear. If you think of it kind of like you would think of like a stealth fighter. So it's taking those distortion waves and sending them away from your ear so that you get a more pure signal at your seat. The other thing, they have the phase plug, so that's another device to change the timing of the mids in the room. And then behind these are housed in a molded cork enclosure. So they take recycled cork and they mix it with resin and they mold the enclosure to be the exact shape of what the computer says these drivers want. So it's no longer where a traditional speaker has like a piece of wood and some foam and you kind of hope that it always stays the same. We can manufacture hundreds of these in a day and everyone is exactly the same. And then you take the people that used to have to do that job and they can do things like design drivers and finish cabinets, things where hands are actually necessary. We have machines do things that machines do and hands do things that hands do, while this is still a fully handcrafted speaker. Another really cool feature here is the concrete base. So all of the speakers in this Sonetto Generation 2 line have a concrete base with a downward firing port. That's really nice because it allows you to always control the first reflection off of the speakers. And that way it's a lot easier to place in a room because you're not as worried about getting it exactly in the corner or exactly far away from the corner, because this is always going to be constant. If you have carpet or tile or whatever, it's always going to hit the concrete base first and they know exactly what that wants to do. Our most affordable system in the house, and then from here we typically go up and up and up until we see some of the stuff we've already seen today. And now here we are in our smaller McIntosh listening room. Right here we have a couple of systems similar to what we have in the Rotel room, with an integrated system and a setup of separates. Typically we are running off the separates, which is our C53. As mentioned earlier, will be replaced by a C55 whenever all the customer pre-orders go out. But at the bottom there, we're powering it with an MC275. That's the most iconic piece of McIntosh gear that's maybe ever been produced. This is the 6th generation of the MC275. We've been building it for almost 60 years, I believe, and still something that people really respond to, both visually and sound-wise. Up on top, we have two of our physical sources. We have the MT2 turntable and the MCT 500 CD transport, which is really nice if you don't want to double up on DACs in your system, because all of these products have our new DA2 DAC module. So if you want to save a little bit of money, you can get a transport instead of the traditional CD player. We also feature the MPC 500 power conditioner in this room. And what I think is the star of this space and really a magic box, everyone's favorite speaker, the Electa Amator 3. This is the 3rd generation of what essentially started Sonus Faber. And this thing blows minds every time people listen to it. This is a solid walnut and marble cabinet. This box weighs 32 pounds without the stand. But what that really dense cabinet material means is it forces all of the energy created by these two drivers out into the room. And we get a lot more experience than you would expect out of something like this. This system really makes people's jaws drop with the amount of clarity and depth that you get out of it. Just really focused on mid-range, where all of the music lives. Voices, stand-up bass, piano, it's all in that mid-range that these things really shine at. And realistically, this is a fairly affordable room when it comes down to it, right? I think even if we include both of the physical sources, we're well under $50,000 for something that will last you the rest of your life and blow your mind every time you listen to it.
Ma la parte più bella deve ancora arrivare. Noi abbiamo fortemente chiesto di visitare la House of Sound per vedere dal punto di vista del marketing come lavorano i marchi che trattiamo. Devo dire, ragazzi, dai, bellissimo, sei in centro New York, sei un cliente top, vai in questo posto per ascoltare un sistema di riferimento. Beh, devo dire che da un punto di vista del marketing si lavora come lavorano in altri settori che sono un pochino più avanzati del nostro, quindi per me è davvero 10 su 10. Ma l'altra motivazione è ascoltare le Sonus Faber Suprema, il nuovo sistema di riferimento di Sonus da più di €1 milione, e ovviamente non tutti i giorni c'è la possibilità di trovarle e più che altro di poterle ascoltare.
All right, and now here we are at our true flagship system in the house. This is everything in here is the best thing that either McIntosh or Sonus Faber build to do the thing that it's doing. If we start over here at the tower, we have all of the McIntosh reference level gear. So the MT10 turntable, just one of the nicest turntables you can get, both to look at and to play. One of the things I really like about it is that the platter is actually magnetically levitated. So there's a lot of ability to isolate it from the ground so you get the best possible experience with it. These are just a wonderful machine, and also plays up to 78 if you have some really old records, which is pretty cool. And one of the things I like about it is that this is actually reading the speed. It's not telling you what you set the knob to, it's calculating what the platter is actually spinning at. I think that's pretty cool. Down at the very bottom, we have the MCD 12,000. So that does all of our digital in this system. Obviously CDs and SACDs, but we also have our streamer hooked into it. We have our TV hooked into it. So anything that's digital is coming through this machine. And then up here in the middle, we have the C12000, so McIntosh's reference level preamp. It's a 2-box solution, but what that does is it allows you to take all of the very low voltage music and keep that separate from all of the high voltage control. So down here you have a microprocessor for the volume, you have a display, all of these things are rather noisy. We want to keep that away from the actual music, and this gives you the best possible ability to create the purest sound. Then if you look up, we have a lot of amplifiers here. The 611 at the top is not being used in the current configuration, but depending on what we do here in the future, we have the ability to add more amplifiers to the system. To get on from that though, we have an MC 1.25K, which is giving 1200 watts over to the tower of the Suprema, and we'll talk about those in a second. And then down below you see the MC 2.1 kW. We talked a bit about that in the other room, but just to kind of touch back on it a little bit, this is the new version of our 2000 watt monoblock. Monoblock, but it's 3 boxes, but we talked about that as well. It's a quad balance amplifier. So 1000 watts in phase, 1000 watts out of phase, and then combined here for once in completely noiseless music in the room. If we look over here to the side, you'll see the crossover box for the subwoofer for the Suprema. And once you're able to place the speakers exactly where you want them in the room, you then use the crossover to really take a scalpel to fine tune exactly how it can sound in that room. So for each of the 2 subwoofers, you have a completely independent set of controls. This thing has 2 power transformers, 2 completely independent boards. And for each of the subwoofers, you have a phase, you have a low pass, you have a high pass, you have a low pass for the tower if you wanted to run the tower through it, which on some configurations makes a lot of sense. And then you have an amplitude for each of the 2 subwoofers. And then speaking of those, we move over here to the actual speakers of the Suprema. So this is the ultimate expression of what Sonus Faber has ever been able to do. When they started this project, they were just told to build the best thing, and they took some time, and they didn't worry about budget, they didn't worry about if anybody might even ever buy one. They just wanted to build the best speakers. And I think in less than a year, we've sold 8 sets at $750,000. So it's pretty, people like it, right? It's really, really exciting. So with each of the system, you have 2 subwoofer towers and 2 program towers. The subwoofers are a dual layer forged carbon 15-inch subwoofer. If you take a look at that surround, you see it moves quite a bit. I think there's 2.5 inches of excursion on this thing. So it moves quite a bit of air in the room, which you can feel. In the proper room, it can get down to 8 hertz. 8, single digit. It's nothing you can hear, but you will feel it and you know it exists. And then you move over to the tower itself. There's a lot of really cool things going on with this. My favorite is, if you take a look at the voice module, on the back here, there's a knob that when you turn this knob, it's connected to a screw that actually changes the angle of the voice module. So once again, it gives you the ability to fine tune how it sounds in any specific room. So when they're properly set up, they will sound as perfect as physically possible in that space where you have them. So yeah, once again, if you want the best, this is the best. You cannot get better sound than this.
Visita terminata, un concept davvero incredibile, molto interessante. Come abbiamo visto, abbiamo anche la cucina, è uno spazio che può essere adibito anche a eventi, viene per l'appunto affittato da grandi aziende, da celebrities. Ci dicevano che il giorno prima era qui una grande azienda che aveva noleggiato dei cuochi che cucinavano con più di 50 persone, che hanno la possibilità di venire in questo ambiente dove sono settate Sonus Faber, McIntosh, e ovviamente prendere parte al loro evento, ma intanto abbiamo anche tutto questo comparto molto interessante. Se ovviamente avete anche la possibilità di acquistare prodotti di livello, questo è un posto bellissimo dove venire, perché loro sono super tecnici, hanno tantissima conoscenza dei prodotti e vi fanno sentire a casa. Quindi avete $1 milione, volete acquistare un impianto incredibile e magari siete uomini di mondo e bazzicate per New York, questo è un bellissimo posto. Per venire ovviamente c'è bisogno di un appuntamento, lo si può prendere tramite un rivenditore come noi, ma ovviamente è una cosa molto lifestyle, è uno spazio per far conoscere anche magari a un livello importante a delle persone, i super ricchi o anche persone importanti, manager dei prodotti meravigliosi come Sonus Faber e McIntosh.